Okay, we're going to take a look at using the on-car brake lathe, which is this component right here, this machine. This will allow us to cut rotors without having to take them off the vehicle. Saves a lot of time. Basically what we're going to do first is we're going to show you how to set the lift up. So when you drive the vehicle in, you want to try to get it centered in between these two posts here, this red post on each side. Basically you want it about in the center. The front wheel, when you drive it in, has to be pretty close to that yellow plate that you see on the floor, which is where you're going to put the tire. If you have a truck that's longer, like a pickup truck full size, you might have to put the wheel up front right here. So you want basically the door of the car, the driver's door, to be kind of even where the steering wheel is to the post. So again, if you have a longer vehicle like a pickup truck, you might have to move it a little further forward. We have these arms here on the floor that have to be placed underneath the vehicle. So we're going to take this pad right here and move this. These slide out. And you can actually take these off, and we have these extensions here on the back of the lift. If you put one of these in here, you can actually make it taller if you have a truck that's taller like that. And then you basically take this pad and put it on top of that. So you can see that you can actually increase the height of these pads depending on what you're trying to work with. We have all different sizes, 2 different sizes here. So we're going to basically take this, put it underneath the vehicle. This arm slides out, and you want to put it under a place where it's nice and solid. Generally underneath the vehicle, if you look here, you'll see right here's an area where it's strong, and we're going to put the pad right under that area there. Okay, same thing on the back. We want to move this arm underneath the vehicle and take a look underneath. And we're looking for a solid area right there. Okay, so if you look under here, you'll see this area right here is very strong. That's where you want to put the lift. And then on the other side, I'm going to come around. Same thing on the back. Put this underneath. Okay, right there. And again, we want to make sure we're not near the exhaust or the gas tank. And then in the front, I'm going to put the arm underneath. Again, right under this area right here. Okay, next thing we want to do, there's a couple buttons on the equipment. This green button that you see right here is the raise button. This lever right here and this lever right here. When you want to lower it, you have to hold this one down, and at the same time, you have to push this one in. So this releases a lock, and you have to hold that down as you lower the vehicle. So you only have to hit one button to raise it. So you can see what's happening. Now, if you hear any crunching sounds or anything that doesn't sound right, you want to stop and take a look at what's going on. Also, before you raise the vehicle, make sure there's nobody with their hands underneath the vehicle setting the lift up. Walk around. If you're going to hit that green button, you have to check to make sure nobody else is around setting the lift up Don't just call out, is everybody okay? You need to physically look at it. I usually lift the car up about a foot, and then you want to give it the shake test. So what I'm doing, I'm just pushing up and down on the bumper and making sure that nothing's shifting, everything looks pretty solid. Then you can continue to raise it. Now you're going to hear a clunk sound. Okay, those are locks. Okay, every couple inches there's a lock. So if you're gonna, when I hit lower, if I just push this lever here without pulling the lock lever down, it'll sit on the lock. So if I push this down, you'll see it'll go down a little ways and then stop. Right now I'm sitting on the lock. So we'll leave it there for now. All right, we're gonna be taking a look at this wheel. We're gonna take this tire off first. So first thing we need to do is find the right size socket, right kind of socket. We're gonna be using impact gun, which is right here with the air. So you have to find a socket that's strong. This is a heat treated impact socket. It actually has two sides on this one. One's a little bigger than the other. So what I usually do is put it on the lug nut and see if it feels tight. This one feels pretty good. This one here, if I try this comes in a set of different sizes. If I put this on there, you can see how sloppy that is. This will mess up the lug nut. You don't want to use this one. You'll end up stripping where the lug nut is, and we'll have to replace that. All right, so we're going to be using this socket here. In order to use this particular socket, you need to use an extension. This is what we call an extension. I'm going to put that inside the socket. That goes inside here. And then we're going to use our air gun. Okay, and again, we have to hook up the air to this. This little connector coupler right here. Again, I can't do this with one hand, so let's see if I can pull it back. Okay, I did pull it back with one hand. All right, so you pull it back like this with your thumb and your index finger, as you can see how it moves. With this pulled back like that, you can now put it into this fitting, kind of give it a push. Okay, and what that does is it kind of locks it in place. So you can test it just by pulling on this hose and see if it stays in there okay. All right, next thing we're gonna do, you can look at the end when I hit the trigger. Here's the trigger on the gun. You can see which direction it's spinning. Okay, it's actually going counterclockwise right now, which is actually tightening. This little button on here makes it change direction. Okay, now it's clockwise. If we connect this onto our extension, okay, if you're gonna do this while it's not on the car, let's say you hit the trigger, if you hit it real fast, this socket could fly off the end of this tool, hit somebody in the head, hit the car, hurt somebody. If you're gonna do that, I recommend that you put your hand lightly around the outside of this. Don't grab it tight, but just lightly, and then hit the trigger and see which direction it's turning in. It's not gonna hurt you. You just have to hold it lightly. Okay, if you have to change the direction, again, on this one, you hit the button. On the back are speeds. If you look closely, there's a 1, 2, 3. If you put it on 1, let's see. Okay, 1 is a slower power. So generally we leave it on 3 to give us the most amount of torque. So you're gonna leave it on 3. Generally, you're not gonna use 1 and 2 on this particular air gun. All right, so we're gonna zip the lug nuts all off. As you can see, okay, that takes it right off. Now I'm gonna get a magnetic tray. We have magnetic trays hanging over here on the cabinet. This is to store all our bolts and nuts so we don't lose them. So we're going to bring this over to the bench where we're working. You do not want to put lug nuts on the floor because they tend to get lost. Somebody kicks them. So I'm just going to take all these lug nuts and just kind of stick them inside the tray. I'm going to take each one off. Okay, we're going to put that in the tray. Okay, take that off. And then the last one. This one only has 4 because it's a small car. It's a Honda Accord, 1997. Some lady donated it to the class. Okay, at this point the wheel's loose. This is a pretty small wheel, so I'm just going to lift this off the vehicle. There's our brake components. We'll just put the wheel up against the lift here in a safe place. All right, I'm going to lift this up a little higher so I can work on it a little easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do, what you really want to do is sit it on the lock, so when you push this in, now it's sitting on the lock. Now it's safe to work on. So right now, the lift can't come down when you're working underneath it. All right, first thing we need to do, because we're going to be cutting this rotor, here's the rotor. This is in the way, this caliper. So we're going to take the caliper off. First thing you need to do before you take the caliper off is take a C-clamp. This is what a C-clamp looks like. We're going to put that one end of the C-clamp inside this hole right here. As you can see, there's one of the brake pads right there. And then the other end of the C-clamp is going to go to the back. I have to loosen this up a little and make it bigger. Okay, so I'm going to make it as big as it can go so I can